Kia ora guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Max, I'm the host here at the Black Jersey, and for today's video we've got the 2020 to 23 Springboks Depth Chart. This is going to be a very interesting video because a lot of Springbok fans tend to discuss the amount of depth they've got and how it's unparalleled in the world. While South Africa does have a very deep talent pool, I think a lot of you guys are going to get the shock of your lives when you see how much depth Jacques Nienaber has actually built. This video is going to be taking a look at the amount of minutes played by every player in every jersey to demonstrate how much talent Jacques Nienaber actually has faith in. This is inspired by the 1014 Rugby, who used to be my favourite YouTube channel, and to just show how the depth chart works, we're going to look at how this whole thing works. So in an ideal depth chart, we've got a pie chart to demonstrate the minutes played. The first choice players ideally got about 40% of the minutes played, second choice at about 30%, third choice at 20, and then for a few positions who you really need cover for, such as the spine like hooker, number 8, halfback 10 and 15, you do need a fourth choice guy you can call in case of a worst case scenario, with about 10% of the chart, enough to learn the calls of the teams. However, if a player becomes ineligible for a team due to injury, retirement, or in the case of an Australian or New Zealand player moving overseas, then their share of the depth chart gets invalidated. As we can see, if the fourth choice player was to be ruled out of the World Cup due to injury, the colour of his chart turns to grey, whereas the first choice remains in red, the second choice remains in blue, and the third choice remains in green. So to quantify how all that's happening, Sia Khaleesi over at 6, a fair few of those minutes are going to be invalid. To look at everything though, we'll start off with loose head prop. Stephen Kitsoff, massive minutes. I'm going to give Nienaber the benefit of the doubt though at loose head prop. Because they didn't play any tests in 2020, that will be why he hasn't really had time to develop a fourth choice player for the charts that are actually looking pretty decent. As we can see, Ox and Chair has really came to life and become a world-class player in recent years. I'm not just being nice because he follows me on Instagram. And as we can see, Trevor Enyakani, a very good backup. Now, the big question is, can Mchunu or can Dutoy get a few more minutes under their belts for this jersey? That's, I think, going to be big for them this year in 2023. Over at hooker, I'm not too alarmed by this either. Mbonambi, Marks, both playing for some pretty excessive minutes, as we can see, but Dion Forey, who has played a few minutes as a loose forward, can play hooker, so I'm assuming that Forey's minutes in other jerseys will transfer over to number 2, where he can be considered as the fourth choice. Joseph Dweba getting him a few more minutes though. This has to be paramount for the 2023 Rugby Championship. They need to start him a lot so they can build that depth ahead of the tournament, because your third choice guy, just 6.8% of the minutes, not ideal if you ask me. We now go over to tight head prop. It's a similar thing to loose head prop. Trevor Enyakani, as we can see, is the third choice for both number 1 and number 3. So the big question is, could Dutoy get left out after the red card against England, or are they just simply going to pick 2 third choice players who can play at both number 1 and number 3, as Dutoy's quite far behind here as well. Vincent Cog, he is not retired like how I thought he would. He's still playing a very good footy. And Frans Malherbe, nearly 50%. No surprises there. They just do need to get that fourth choice player sorted. So fingers crossed Dutoy will play more minutes this year. Over to the lock jerseys though. As we can see, it's a bit more decent over at number 5. But with Etzebeth playing absolutely massive minutes at 4, well, that comes down to the amount of injuries that RG Snyman has been delivered. So Etzebeth playing 86.4% of the minutes at number 4, while Marvin Ori is probably the only real cover, considering the fact that Mostert and Diaga take up a huge percentage of number 5. So it's pretty obvious to me those are the 4 locks that Nienaber trusts to be in the Springboks setup. So hopefully a debut to JJ van der Mescht, or maybe even a recovery for Snyman could be beneficial for the cause. Let me know what you think is going to happen down below in the comments. Now over to the open side flanker though, the number 6 jersey, South African open sides, they wear 6. Sia Khaleesi getting injured with the ACL, gushing for a man. Unless a miracle happens, he's almost definitely going to miss the tournament, which is a real shame. Quagga Smith though, he seems to be the first choice behind Khaleesi now that Khaleesi's almost definitely out of the tournament. So will Smith's minutes played in other jerseys transfer over? With Khaleesi playing 84.9% of the minutes available, this is a massive blow, and Nienaber needs to learn a thing or two about the Irish, who are often subbing Johnny Sexton off, and the All Blacks, who are often subbing Sam Cane off. That way they can build depth other than the captain and the captain's jersey. So is this Khaleesi situation just an example of the guys being a captain and they're using the number 7 jersey to build all the backup depth? Maybe that's the case, because when we go over to 7, Pieter-Steph du Toit's been injured, so Quagga Smith has actually played more minutes than du Toit in the jersey, because the Springboks have been fielding 2 open side flankers at once on a fair few occasions. So Franco Mostert's also a bit behind Pieter-Steph du Toit, so it's clear that they want to use a third lock in the 7 jersey just to balance that line out, as Jasper Wiese isn't as tall as Dwayne Vermeulen. There's 3 clear guys, but they do really need to give Lowe a few more minutes, as we all know the minutes that Smith has played will be transferred over to the number 6 jersey. Over to number 8, Jasper Wiese has overtaken Vermeulen. Vermeulen's had a problem with injury. He's definitely played past his prime, so with Wiese overtaking him, I'm not as worried for if Vermeulen gets injured or something. This guy is the clear first choice, number 8. Quagga Smith is the clear third choice, and Evan Roos is starting to stick out as the 4th choice. So this is a decently well-balanced depth chart, especially considering that Wiese has a few discipline issues. Vermeulen has been injured a fair bit, plus they lost all of 2020 towards this World Cup cycle. So really a decent amount of credit to Nienaber for handling all of this so well. We're now going to take a quick ad break before we get into the backs, guys. Righto guys, we're into the backs now, and as we can see with halfback, this is a perfect, literally perfect depth chart. It's quite obvious from my body language that I'm not impressed with the depth built at lock or at 6. I'll probably be the same with the midfield, but over here, this is absolutely beautiful. De Klerk with about 40% on 801 minutes. Hendricks are getting close to 30% with 586 minutes in total. Corvus Reinach with 20.5%. And Herschel Yanchi's 11.1% of the minutes. This is absolutely beautiful to look at. It's pretty clear who the 3 halfbacks are going to be for the World Cup, and Herschel Yanchi's is the 4th choice. That is an excellent cover to bring in if somebody gets injured. So hats off for Jacques Nienaber for handling the number 9 jersey so well. Over to number 10. It's not quite the same, but I do believe we can trust to him see Mani Lebok there rather get his 52 minutes up a wee little bit in the Rugby Championship this year. If Lebok can do that, that'll be perfect, and it'll make the 10 depth chart into a pretty decent scenario. Elton Yanchis with just 14% probably played his way out as well due to his form, and Damien Willemse, quite interestingly, what we're going to see, guys, is we're going to see he's the 2nd choice in 2 different jerseys. Very good as well to see this depth chart looking this way, as Handré Pollard, the man, if he goes down, they are a completely different team. He provides the difference almost all the time, so fingers crossed that this is the perfect amount of depth for if Pollard goes down injured. Interesting to see Francois staying with 96 minutes there at 10 as well. Pretty interesting stuff. We'll now move over to the midfield. This here though, this is absolutely unacceptable. You need to build a decent amount of team cohesion between your 2nd and your 1st choice 12-13 combo. As we can see though with 12 and 13, there's so much red covering each side of the jerseys. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Dialendi has 78% of the number 12 chart. Andre Esterhuizen, who is big for nothing almost, he's 2nd place. Francois Steyn, who is no spring chicken, he's in 3rd. Handré Pollard, who we know is the 1st choice 10, he's in 4th. So there's no actual real depth over here. Andre Esterhuizen is getting pretty deep into his career at this point, and there's no real successor lighting the world up at club level. So Dialendi is really the only choice over at 12. While Jesse Creel is the clear 2nd choice behind Lucanio who would have definitely been in my World 15 last year had he played more. Well, that's not ideal because Creel hasn't exactly been in decent form either, whereas Dialendi is the 3rd choice over at 13, with Villy LaRue just playing 1 minute off the bench against the All Blacks, getting the final try at Mbabella to be the 4th choice. So midfield, this is absolutely unacceptable. And man, oh man, my blood is starting to boil, so we're going to move over to the number 11 jersey, and I'm not so concerned to see Makazole Mpimpi have such a huge spread of the red colour with 1,656 minutes. Afalele Fasi, Kurtley Aronza, Warwick Gallant, all world-class players that can cover him absolutely well. Form is the only real thing that matters when you're a winger, because after all, wings are just finishes at the end of the day when it comes to the strike runs. And at 14, well, if Mpimpi is injured there, guys, there is absolutely enough cover to sort him. Cheslin Colby, an absolute talent. Spoot Nkosi, though he's had a few off-field difficulties, he is still available. God bless his soul. Hopefully he gets better from what's going on right now. Kurtley Aronza's started to really announce himself onto the world stage. Jesse Creel, he can cover wing. Kanan Moody, he is going to be a rock star of the future. Maybe at fullback, but who knows. And Roscoe Speckman, Warwick Gallant, Villy the Roo, Damien Willems, they've all played minutes there, as has Lucanio Arms. So really, when you look at the 11 depth chart, it's not so much of a worry, because all the sporadicity of the number 14 chart definitely makes up for it. It's going to be okay. I'm not worried about the wingers at all for South Africa. And after all, wingers are wingers. Over at fullback as well, Damien Willems, he is the first choice utility back, I guess, because he's second on the chart for 15 and he's second on the chart for 10, with Villy the Roo then coming in with 65.3% of the minutes. Francois Steyn is the third choice, but once again, they do really need to find a fourth choice over at fullback, so maybe Kanan Moody is going to be that guy, as he's played fullback at an age grade level and a club level. Kanan Moody, he has played 28 minutes there as well, so hopefully he can get that back up. Maybe Colby could play more than 43 minutes toward the chart as well. Pretty puzzling as who it's going to be for the fourth choice, but it's okay. At least there is depth, unlike over at midfield, and wingers can usually drop back to fullback in worst case scenarios too. Now, the most important player of the Springboks to finish off this video is none other than Damian de Allende. With Sia Khaleesi almost definitely out for the World Cup, well, this guy's going to have a massive share of leadership. De Allende, at 31 years old, will be going to his third World Cup, having debuted shortly before the 2015 edition. As we can see, he was a World Cup champion all the way back in 2019. Absolutely amazing season he had back then. He's in pretty good form as well. I picked him for my World 15 last year. He's played 70 test caps in total, gaining 23 of those under Jacques Nienaber since the 2021 Lions tour, and he's played the most minutes at 12, third at 13, for a total of 1,828 minutes, the most minutes of any Springbok in the Jacques Nienaber era. Because there's so little depth in midfield and Lucanio Arm has been injured, De Allende is the senior player of that backline when Villy the Roo is off the pitch. He's been playing absolutely brilliantly as of late, and though the crash ball running tactic is starting to get a bit outdated, I make an exception for De Allende because everybody in that Springbok backline can kick, whereas De Allende fills a really nice role in defence of winning the turnovers if there's a flanker unavailable. So Damian de Allende, to finish off this video, is the most important player for Jacques Nienaber's Springboks at the 2023 World Cup. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. Make sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you later. Cheers from Max.